83 hours. What could you do in 83 hours? In that time, you can beat Minecraft 1.5 times, you can beat Persona 5 once, you can beat Undertale 12 times, you can make approximately 1.2 grand working at a fast food restaurant, you could drive all the way from the East Coast of the United States all the way to the West Coast and then back again, or you could jack off to furry porn 832 times. From any perspective, 83 hours is a significant chunk of time. Whether spent in work or pleasure, that 83 hours can accomplish great things. 83 hours is exactly the amount of time it took me to achieve Enter the Gungeon's true ending, and I'm going to spend the rest of this video justifying that wasted time and convincing you to do the same. Now, Enter the Gungeon is a game better experience for yourself rather than having some probably autistic YouTuber man explain it to you. So if you have no prior experience with the game, pause the video, buy the game, and just play through a couple runs. That should provide enough context to come back to this video and watch it all the way through so that you can improve my video statistics, thus furthering my nefarious plans to take over the world and enslave all of humanity in preparation for the arrival of our eternal saviors, the space albino dinosaur race. Enter the Gungeon is a very simple game. Spoiler alert, I have just intentionally misled you for reasons I will reveal later in the video. It opens with a text crawl that tells a story of a legendary weapon hidden in the depths of a dangerous cavern known as the Gungeon. A gun that can kill the past. What this actually means is something we'll get to much later in the video. You are then dropped into Character Select, where you are forced to pick a character between Han Solo, Doom Guy, a very angry lesbian, and the lady with the showy doggy. These unlikely allies are brought together in their quest to claim the gun that can kill the past. After choosing your fighter, you are rushed through a quick tutorial that teaches you the basics of the game: shooting, looting, blanking, flanking, sucking, and fuck. Must I reiterate that this game is a very simple one. After you complete the tutorial, you enter the gates of the Gungeon for the first of many attempts to come. Now, your first Gungeon run probably went something like this. Why are the enemies bullets? Not only am I shooting bullets, I'm shooting bullets. Huh. Why can't I open this chest? Damn, I don't think I like this game. What the fuck? This isn't a gun, this is a barrel and it shoots... Oh, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah, I fucking hate this game. Yes, my first boss. You will not stand long before me, fool. Thou shalt bend to the might of my incredible skill, kneel before your master, and be punished. At this point, you can only be thinking one thing. Only an extremely mentally ill person would subject themselves to the utter pain and humiliation that is this game. So, you know what? Fuck it. You install the game. You walk away. You successfully save yourself from hundreds of hours of pain and suffering. Only, this game has a way of following you. Stalking you. When browsing Reddit threads discussing beloved indie titles... Oh, there it is. Odd. People really seem to like this game. When you're looking for a new roguelite to play while watching YouTube on the second monitor, there it is again, leering at you. Look at you, it says. You sad, pathetic fool. I'm the embodiment of perfection. Overwhelmingly positive, and yet you can't manage to win a single run. I'm disappointed in you. With shame in your eyes, you press a button and reinstall the game. After all, it's just one more run. What could possibly go wrong? Second run, you're in. Your movements are quick, your aim true, you're learning quickly. You realize the reason why you couldn't open that one chest was because you were out of keys. Now, where could you get a key? You remember seeing a shopkeeper in one of the rooms in your last run, so you press forward, hoping you'll meet him again. Sure enough, you do. You buy a key with the money you've collected from killing enemies. You soon encounter a chest that's different from the others you've seen. Upon opening it, what the fuck is this? It's like a lightsaber, but a gun? A fight? Say, oh. You continue playing as normal, only to realize that coming into contact with enemy shots while reloading reflects those bullets back at your foes. Wow, you think. This gun is really good. I bet you this single gun could carry me all the way to the end. Oh, you foolish child. If only you knew the terrors that await you within the depths of the Gungeon. With the power of your new gun, you vanquish the boss and are granted rich rewards. Drunk with power, you advance to the next floor of the Gungeon, confident in your abilities. You are soon humbled by a stray bullet, ending your euphoria-filled rampage. Once again, you are driven to overwhelming ire at the unfairness of this game. But there's something else there. A feeling behind your anger. It whispers to you. You got so much farther this time. Keep playing and you'll find even better guns. Guns that can fell the very gods themselves. Just one more run. It couldn't hurt. If you can't tell, despite the oppressively constant nature of its difficulty, Enter the Gungeon can be hilariously inconsistent. At one moment you're laughing because you just found a funny skateboard gun with a ball cap and you're like, damn, I didn't know you were cool like that. The next you're crying tears of rage because you ran out of ammo and you're slowly bleeding out in a room full of enemies while you imagine how disappointed your father would be if he saw you trying to kill an astral cat projection with your starting pistol because you couldn't just manage your ammo consumption. You fucking retard! This wacky, almost random inconsistency is part of the appeal of the Gungeon. Despite being a cripplingly difficult and unforgiving place, it never forgets to have fun with itself. It's not afraid of the shameless puns or the cheesy pop culture references. Not only is the name of the game a portmanteau of gun and dungeon, but most of the enemies are either gun or bullet themed. Your bullet cancelers are called blanks, your money is shells, and your hearts are 2 bullets crossed together. Basically everything in this game is a gun or a reference, and most times it's both. This goofy thematic style runs contrary to the brutal difficulty the game presents. It's like a brief respite from the hell in bullet hell. But as hard as Enter the Gungeon is, it's not actually a true bullet hell. You see that? This is more important than you might realize. A bullet hell, if you somehow have never played one, is exactly what it sounds like. You can move to dodge projectiles and you can shoot. That's it. It's in this simplicity that bullet hells find their challenge. You have no option except to dodge the bullets. You don't get a cheese strat, you don't get to input a code for a special overpowered character. You learn the bullet patterns or you get fucked. Full stop. The Gungeon adds an important twist to the classical formula by granting you a dodge roll inspired by Dark Souls, another game series renowned for its notorious difficulty. The dodge roll is your one exception to the hell in bullet hell. It gives you the option to not play by the game's conventional rule set. You don't get ahead and Enter the Gungeon by dodging bullet patterns and dealing consistent damage like you would in a more traditional bullet hell game. You beat the Gungeon by using whatever tools you have to make your own rules that can be made through the game's many different tools of annihilation. There are so many guns and items in Enter the Gungeon that you need a whole ass book called the Ammonomicon, again with the gun puns, to keep track of them all. Many of these guns and items have synergies with each other, sometimes turning 2 seemingly random objects into an overpowered combo. For example, the cactus is a very weak weapon by itself. Its tiny projectiles and low damage make it easily outclassed by almost every other weapon. However, when paired with the passive item Broccoli, its damage is tripled, its projectile size is doubled, and it gains piercing and ricochet. You can also pair that with Armor of Thorns to increase the damage again by 30% and shoot out more projectiles. There are in total 6 different items that help transform the cactus into a much more powerful weapon. And if you manage to get an item called the Lich's Eye Bullets, which make every gun you have gain all their possible synergies, well, it looks like this. Many guns and items become much more powerful through the use of synergy. Now, none of this can make up for a complete lack of skill, but it brings to light a very important part of how Enter the Gungeon is designed. You see, the most important part of beating the Gungeon isn't shooting or dodging, it's knowing. Enter the Gungeon has many layers that you can only peel back by consulting the wiki or sifting through Reddit threads. Whether it's an objectively vast game like Persona 5 or a very mechanically complex one like StarCraft, some games are meant to be played with an instruction guide. But the Gungeon is different in this respect. While normally hidden information like this would serve to reveal menial tasks to achieve an arbitrary goal, like grinding for stat increases or practicing button combos, Enter the Gungeon's hidden mechanics are not only deep, but intensely relevant. You may have noticed that certain guns and items have a black aura surrounding them, and picking them up makes a little skull graphic appear above your head. Well, this is the game's hidden curse mechanic. Curse builds up with the acquisition of cursed weapons and items, with each cursed object increasing your curse level differently. The higher your curse gets, the more difficult the game becomes. More difficult enemies will begin to spawn in greater numbers, as well as the appearance of the Jammed, the ghostly black and red enemy variants with greatly increased health and strength. Health pickups, ammo, and keys spawn less often after a room clear, and mimics are more likely to replace chests. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that some chests will be randomly replaced with a D&D mimic who pulls out a gun and starts shooting at you. Remember kids, to always shoot the chest before it can shoot you. The curse mechanic is not explained in-game at all, and that minuscule purple skull detail ends up hiding what can be a crucial mechanic to the game. If your curse gets too high, the game gets significantly harder and you will end up struggling on the higher floors. But there's another hidden mechanic that's arguably even more important. Coolness. Unlike Curse, Coolness increases the drop chance of healthful pickups and makes your items recharge faster. However, also unlike Curse, there is literally zero indication that this mechanic even exists. You don't even get the purple skull icon. All items and guns that grant Coolness only do so through lines of code that you can't see. So here you have 2 mechanics that can either make or break your run, and neither of them you can even know about without either taking the game apart or reading the wiki. But what happens if there was an item that utilizes both hidden mechanics? As it turns out, there is. The item's 6th chamber grants grants 2 points of coolness for every 1 point of curse, and itself is a cursed item. So here you have two crucial mechanics that the game doesn't explain, and an item that becomes one of the best in the game by utilizing both of them, and might I remind you, the item description on 6th Chamber does not explain any of this. You know, I lied when I said Enter the Gungeon is a simple game. It is deeper than you could have ever imagined. And unlike menial tasks in an RPG, all of the Gungeon's intricacies drastically change the way you play the game. Now, I don't have time to go over the Gungeon's secret floors, or the secret rooms, or the secret bosses, one of which can only be found by buying a special key on the 2nd floor, finding a secret trapdoor on the 3rd, traveling through 2 secret walls, and navigating through rooms based on secret notes found in the Ammonomicon to fight a 3-stage boss, the 3rd stage of which is literally just a game of Punch-Out, but this game is incredibly deep. It's less like another attempt to beat a video game, and more like a story, an adventure. Every chest opened, every room cleared, every point of damage taken shapes a narrative that's familiar, yet consistently different. For example, you start a new run with the pilot. You fight your way through a few rooms until you reach your first chest. It's blue, the second worst rarity of chest in the game. You decide not to blow your starting key on what will be probably garbage. You continue fighting until you find another. This one is green. As you know, green means go, and you decide to open it, but now you have a choice to make. You could spend your 1 key on this chest and hopefully get a decent gun that you can use to beat this floor's boss without taking damage, which will grant you a permanent health increase. Or you could hold on to it and hope you find another, unlocking the dual locks in a special room that takes you to a secret floor where you have the chance to earn more rewards before advancing to floor 2. Of course, this means you'll have to fight the boss with your starting weapon. You might take more damage. You probably won't complete it hitless, making it so that you can't get the health increase. But wait, you remember that the pilot starts with the lockpick item, and using it gives you a 50-50 chance at unlocking any lock without spending keys. But if you fail, the lock becomes unable to be opened by anything. What risks will you take? Will you open the chest? And if you do, what will you open the chest with? Will you even get something good if you do? Will you instead duel the boss with the single worst weapon in the game to ensure the future of your run? You are currently 5 minutes in, and already you must make choices that can either make or break your run. One of the main inspirations for Enter the Gungeon was Dungeons & Dragons, and it shows. To quote the developers, "We created a room and played it over and over again, and then structured floor layouts based on rules that we think would make good dungeon designs. The designs are very much influenced by Legend of Zelda with a splash of D&D. But I don't think that a splash is doing it justice. No fewer than 3 bosses are all but ripped straight from the Forgotten Realms, and considering how similar Gungeon runs can be to the unpredictability of a D&D campaign, I don't think it's crazy to say that each Gungeon run is like a story. And speaking of story, I think we've put this off for long enough. It's time to finally claim the gun that can kill the past. Your luck finally adds up. You conquer the first floor with ease, then the second, then the third. With difficulty, the 4th. You reach the 5th and final chamber, the Forge. With more fire and falling hazards than any floor of the Gungeon, the Forge is by far the Gungeon's greatest challenge. But your aim is true and your reflexes quick, and soon you stand before the door that leads to the final boss, the Dragon, Keeper of the Gungeon. Wading through a literal sea of bullets, you deal the final blow to the monster's heart, ending its tyrannical reign. You triumphantly stride forward into the void to claim your prize, the gun that can kill the past. Taking it in your hands, you aim, and you fire. As the credits roll and the sound of that goddamned awesome theme song plays in your ears, you lean back in your chair. The run had taken you well over an hour, but now you could finally rest easy. Rest easy. The words sound comforting to you, and yet there are still thoughts in the back of your mind that you can't ignore. Why does the game inform you that the past still haunts you? Who is that strange NPC in the Forge? What did that fatal gunshot really do to kill your past? You may have beaten the game, but it's not enough for you. The Gungeon still holds mysteries, and you will unearth them. As it turns out, the gun that can kill the past will not work as intended unless loaded with a special type of bullet. A kind of bullet made by the blacksmith, that mysterious NPC who appears instead of the shopkeeper on the 5th floor. She agrees to make the bullet for you, but first she needs materials. The prime primer from the 2nd floor, the arcane gunpowder from the 3rd, the planar lead from the 4th, and the obsidian shell casing hidden within the dragon's skull. Over the course of many runs, you retrieve these items and bring them to her, which she then uses to craft a single bullet. This bullet hopefully will make the gun work as intended. Bullet in hand, you press that trigger once more. But instead of watching the credits roll, you find yourself somewhere else altogether. All the loot you've accumulated over the course of your run is gone. Instead, you find yourself in the past. You talk to a cowering scientist who informs you that a botched experiment has unleashed a terrifying monster in the medical bay. You decide that this time, you won't run. You face down the interdimensional horror with nothing but your rifle and courage and succeed in banishing it back to the formless void from whence it came. Then, and only then, do the credits roll. Finally, we have an answer for why this motley crew even came to the Gungeon. Each of them has some dark regret in their past that they just couldn't forget. For the pilot, it was abandoning his friend in their time of need to save his own skin. For the Marine, it was running for the escape pods while his brothers died in combat. For the convict, it was allowing herself to be captured and letting her criminal empire fall to dust. For the hunter, it was getting frozen in a cryopod by a mad scientist for hundreds of years. Each past is conquered by using the bullet that can kill the past to travel back in time to fix whatever regrets hunted the Gungeoneers. So now, is the game finally over? Your only answer is a line of cryptic text that reads, "The Gungeon still remains." Your quest is clear now. Not only must you conquer your past, you must destroy this edifice of evil that has claimed so many lives. Along your travels, you meet a few new faces, a robot and a friendly bullet, each with their own past to kill. During one of your runs, you come across what seems to be a patch of starlight goop. Interacting with it and finishing the run unlocks the Paradox, a strong Gungeoneer who is a shadowy amalgamation of all the Gungeoneers rolled into one. Curiously, the Paradox is said to have no past. Could this be the answer? Will beating the Gungeon with the Paradox result in it being destroyed somehow? Courage never faltering, you fight your way to the summit. You make your way to the blacksmith to claim your bullet. But something odd happens. For some reason, the blacksmith will not offer you a bullet with which to kill your past. You slay the dragon and enter the void, rushing forward to claim your prize. But suddenly, disaster strikes. A bony claw rips through the floor and drags you downwards, down into hell. A place you have been avoiding for so very long. You realize that the 5th floor was only the warm-up for the insanity that is bullet hell, the Gungeon's true 6th and final floor. Rooms are cramped, enemy bullets are thick, and the forces of the Jammed threaten to tear your soul from your body. Battered and beaten and half alive, you stumble into the boss room, where you are confronted by the Lich, the true master of the Gungeon. After a brutal 3-phase boss battle, you point the gun that can kill the past at the Lich. You pull the trigger for what you hope is one final time. But still, your work is not done. You are reborn as a face you do not recognize, starting at the 1st floor of the Gungeon. This is the Gunslinger, the most formidable of all Gungeoneers. Not only is he a skilled gunman, but a powerful wizard as well. Instead of reloading his signature weapon, the Slinger, he instead throws it at his enemies and draws a new one from his magical belt. In times past, he feared for the survival of the old magics. He knew that one day technology would overgrow every technique he studied hard to learn. And so, deep within a Gungeon laboratory, he crafted the one magical item that would be more powerful than any other man-made weapon. The gun that could kill the past. But his actions angered Caliber, the goddess of guns, and so she sent a great calamity upon the Gunslinger. A great bullet crashed from the sky, transforming the Slinger's laboratory into the Gungeon, and himself into a hideous undead monster, binding him to a personal purgatory named Bullet Hell. Knowing this, you know what must be done. Now that the Gunslinger is free, you must traverse the Gungeon a final time, claim the bullet that can kill the past, and travel into the Gunslinger's past to defeat the Lich and stop the Gungeon from ever existing in the first place. Yeah, look, I know that sounds crazy, but just go with it, okay? Now, attempting one run of the Gungeon is hard enough, but 2 back-to-back is unreasonably difficult. But the walls of the Gungeon trained you to grow stronger or die, and you rise to the occasion. The floors fall to your godlike skill until you once again breach Bullet Hell and reach the Lich, who has been corrupted into a cursed, paradox-like form. This is the end. A bloody, hellish fight follows that leaves you within a few inches of death. With trembling fingers, you finally deal the last blow to the Paradox Lich, and you are graced with the true ending of Enter the Gungeon. Finally, your suffering, and that of the Gungeoneers, is over. Now, that was a lot, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of it didn't make sense. You had an insanely convoluted time travel plot, complex character backstories, hidden mechanics, and, even a cool skateboard gun. Look at the skateboard gun. You get to go to the skateboard gun. Well, the question you're probably asking is, what's the point? You could have walked away without even beating the dragon and you probably still wouldn't have cared. Why did I spend so much time trying to get the true ending of this game? Well, the answer is simple. Why did you enter the Gungeon? Maybe you wanted a challenge, maybe you wanted to smash your fists against the wall until it broke, felt the rush of euphoria you get from completing a hard-won task. Maybe you just wanted a game to play on your second monitor while you caught up with that anime you were watching. Regardless, the Gungeon beckons many to its dark gates. Some crumble, some go far, and some go all the way. Yes, I did steal that from the Sabaton song, but you know what? You can go fuck yourself. For anyone who cared enough to beat the final ending of Enter the Gungeon, it was more than just the satisfaction of overcoming a difficult obstacle. It was for closure. Just like the Gungeoneers within its walls, some players had demons that could only be excised through the trials of the Gungeon. Demons that would only be conquered once you pulled that final trigger. I was one of those people, and you could be too.